Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us on our very first podcast, also uploaded on YouTube of Someone Fix This. You guys know Larry Miller. My name is Mac Miller, and we are so excited to get this started. And we're going to be talking about why people are no longer going to church anymore. Now, before we get into any of this at all, I want to give a shout out to Ashley Graphics. My girlfriend Hannah actually helped make these wonderful professional
Pretty sweet
shirts here. And
I like it.
There's a young man in the back named Tyler who pushed this through and really got it going. So I just want to give a personal shout out to him. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Tyler.
Thank you, Tyler. And so with that, the other thing I want to say before we start is we are not creating this to step on any heads or be judgmental or think what you're doing is wrong. These are strictly just our opinions. We very well could be wrong. We've been known to be wrong before, and it will probably happen again. No, just me. Just me. I'm sorry.
Yes.
You're right.
Excuse me. Yes.
And I want to get that out of the way. So if there's something that you don't agree on, you don't have to listen, or we can both disagree together and still be friends. Hopefully, that's what I would like. So without further ado, we're going to jump right into this. Actually, I do want to say, tell us a little bit about you and why we are doing this, because we've been talking about it for a long time. We wanted to do this for a couple years, and we were going, I don't know. But one of the reasons why I wanted to do it is because you've been speaking for a very long time. So how long have you been speaking?
Well, for over 30 years. I've started in the fitness industry, and the goal was wanting to help people. And through that, I ended up in the last few years, I've been a pastor for the last 5 years. It's kind of a different anomaly, right? From fitness instructor to pastor, but yet very much the same. You're training people to be healthy, and then now you're hopefully trying to train people to be on the right track and to be spiritually healthy. So we've started this campaign, if you will, Someone Fix This, with all the insanity in the world. Not that we can fix it, but we want to have a conversation on how can this be fixed, right?
Absolutely.
Which leads us to the subject of something.
Someone Fix This, and why we're doing it. So how long have you been speaking?
For over 30 years.
So it's been over 30 years.
30 years.
We got the guy with knowledge, and maybe I'm the humor that can get into this. So I'm going to jump into this. This is where we got this online and it was a poll on Google. Actually, my uncle sent us this, and we said, wow, this would be a really good first episode. So I'm just going to read it to you guys real quick. Why are people not going to church anymore? In a poll from July of 2023, so that's just this year, over 40 million Americans have stopped attending church in the past 25 years. By the year 2021, 67% of the population says they don't even attend. It's absolutely crazy. So with that, we have there's the top 6 reasons. So hopefully we can knock them out here. The first one that pretty much everybody said, this was the top answer, was church members seem to be judgmental or hypocritical. Which is super true, right? Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I totally agree. Totally agree.
When I wasn't going to church and I was kind of trying to, find my way and I didn't know, it can be awkward going to church when you go once a year, or maybe you're the people that go during Easter and, the main holidays with your family, and you see people there and you're thinking, oh,
okay, is that judgmental to say they only go on Christmas and Easter already?
Maybe.
Okay, I'm just saying.
Should we stop?
No, keep going. Let's go.
I can't edit that, though.
We're diving in.
We're diving in. I'm being judgmental. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I apologize. People do that, right?
Yeah.
So what would you say, for that being the number one answer, what would you take away from that? How would you say Christians are hypocritical, they're judgmental, and why are they being that way, or why people are feeling that way who don't go to church as much?
Yeah, it's a fair answer. I mean, it's a fair question. It's also a fair answer for someone to say, why do you not go to church? And is it people are hypocritical? They're going to be judgmental.
Like I just was.
Some of that can be true. But, here's what I know of 40 years of training people, helping people in church, is that we are emotional beings. And what we do is that sometimes we can attach our own feelings of, so I haven't been to church, I'm not doing this, and you start judging yourself internally.
Absolutely.
And so I know if I go into the church, immediately they're going to look at me and say, that dude's a sinner. He only comes on Easter.
You feel
His
transparent.
life
You kind of
must
feel
be a
transparent.
mess. And at some level, to be honest with you, you know, we're all a mess at the end of the day. But to think that, you know, I'm not going to go to church. Here's the thing that blows my mind, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
So the things we're going to talk about, these 6 things, it has to do with maybe not going to church. I guess there's another answer is, do you have to go to church to even be saved? That could be another, someone
That's
fix
a whole,
this.
yeah, that's a whole another
question.
episode. Yeah.
But going to church and keeping you separated from your God, if you really love God, you know, the first commandment, Jesus was asked, what is the greatest commandment? And it was actually a lawyer. It was an attorney that asked him
the question.
He asked him this question. He was trying to catch him, right? He was trying to mess him
Correct.
up and trip him up.
Yes.
And he said, hey, Jesus, out of the 10, tell us the greatest. And Jesus answered and said, the greatest commandment is that you love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind. This is the greatest. But he followed it up with, also, I say, love your neighbor as yourself. And if you do these 2, it takes care of the other 8. Because let's face it, if you love God with all your heart, all your soul, and all your mind, well, then you don't kill people.
You're going to love people.
You don't commit adultery.
Yeah.
Right? You don't go out on your wife if you start there. So, you know, I think a lot of it is when people make an excuse. And I get it. It's a real excuse. Emotionally, they feel it. I'm not going to go to church. I'm going to be judged, etc. Well, I think it's kind of self-baked into them, if you will, of I'm going to be judged. So therefore, I will allow God, or I will allow people to keep me from God. Let me ask you a question. Do you think, and this does happen, you know, I've been in the industry for 40 years in the fitness industry. I'm sure there's people that say, I'm not going to go to the gym because people judge me. It's possible.
Right.
But it's still stopping you from going to the gym. And at the end of the day, here's what I know about the gym. No one gives a rat's rear if you're even there, because they're too busy.
They're into
taking
themselves.
selfies.
They're into themselves. Selfies. They don't care.
So, you know, these are absolute reasons and excuses of why we don't maybe serve God or go to church, right? Mm-hmm. So that's number 1.
Yeah. So when I would come vaguely, you know, to your guys' church every now and then, in my mind, I was thinking, you know, I'd see somebody that I'd see every couple months, and I'd be like, I know they're thinking I'm the worst human being. And in reality, I'm thinking that person, they don't care. Like,
but it becomes your reality.
But it's very real to me, and I'm thinking they're judging me. They're like, oh, there's Mac, the guy that shows up once every Friday, and I'm like, I'm not coming anymore, you know.
Right.
And then on the other end, real quick, before we step into the other one, I wanted you to say, you know, coming from, you know, other Christians that are there at church, and they see somebody, you know, Janice, who can't get it together, and she'll come once a year or whatever, which is awesome, and she'll, you know, pull a pastor aside, or you aside, whomever, you know, I know you have stories, and they'll just say, you know, I'm really struggling, and it's like Janice goes out and parties every Saturday night, just getting lit, you know, just crazy. And she's wondering why, you know, life isn't getting together, and why, you know, when she does go to church, it isn't helping, because she feels like they're hypocrites. So what would you say to somebody like that?
I would say to Janice.
Janice isn't real, by the way.
So I'm sure there's a Janice out there.
Maybe there's a Janice out there. I don't know. I don't know Janice.
But at the end of the day, I'm going to have to use scripture. I have to use a story. Is that there was a woman that was caught in the middle of adultery. So first of all, let's back up and say, you know, the question is, Janice is upset why her life isn't together, and she keeps, you know, doing the same thing.
Right. Thinking church is going to help.
And so there's a story biblically to where there was a woman who was caught in the middle of adultery. We're not going to go into all that, but she was thrown at the feet of Jesus. Jesus himself said, where are your accusers? Right? They're gone. And that's the scripture. He that is without sin, judgment, right?
Correct.
Cast the first stone, right? So we shouldn't do that in church. However, here's the punchline. Jesus at the end, and I'm going to say this unfiltered, Jesus said, go and sin no more. Now, it's impossible to complete that task. Go and sin no more. Well, you can't.
Right.
What Jesus was saying was, look, lady, okay, it's going to get somebody.
Yeah.
Look, quit hoeing around, quit doing this,
Right.
and your life will get together. That's what he was asking. He wasn't saying, don't go sin, because it's impossible, right? We're going to sin. We know there's a covering for sin, but he told her, hey, quit doing what you're doing. Get your act together, and your life will change.
Okay, that's
So,
good. That's really
that helpful?
Good. Yeah, that's very helpful.
Probably take somebody off.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That's okay. You don't have to listen. So the second one, this will be their second answer, is I practice my faith in other ways, or I am spiritual. So it's you take this.
I'm not judging
because I'm not judging
I'm
either.
not judging. So this is number two.
This is number
two.
Number
one, I get judged.
Yeah.
Number two, what?
So it says, I practice my faith in other ways. So for an example of this is me and Hannah were actually out last weekend. I met somebody, very, very sweet, nice lady, probably in her 60s. And she was asking me what I do. And I mentioned, sure, I always do. I'm always like, oh, church, because I'm always interested. I like to, have conversations with people. And she was like, oh, that's so awesome. And she's like, now, I'm not religious. I'm not a Jesus person, but I am spiritual. And I find almost religion-like when I go on a walk, when I'm at peace at home reading a book. And I think a lot of people maybe prefer doing that over going to church.
Right.
And I think that's where, spiritual, you could do a whole episode on spiritual. Or, when they say they practice their faith in other ways, I think that, going on the walk or communicating with friends. Right. And they're thinking, I don't want to go to church because it's a mess in there.
It is.
And it is.
It is, right?
It is, right?
Let's face it.
People aren't perfect. It's a house full of imperfect people. So what's your take on?
Well, there's a saying, to live above with saints we love, that would be glory. To live below with saints we know, that's another story, right? Because we're here with people and they drive you freaking
crazy
nuts. And I'm a pastor. I'm going to say it. They just do, because we're all crazy people at some level. Here's what I would say is that individual's right at some level. We are spiritual beings, but the Bible teaches us that we are to forsake not the assembling of yourselves together, whether it's in a church. You know what? And let me stop right there and say this. Listen, if you believe that going to church makes you a Christian, standing in this building, going to this building makes you a Christian any more than you standing in your garage makes you a car. So you can stand in the middle of your garage and go, I'm a car. Well, you're not a car. And going to this building, this place we call the sanctuary, the tabernacle, the temple, whatever it might be called, it's a building, it's brick and mortar. And what makes it a church is the believers that assemble together. And the Bible says that we're to forsake not the assembling, gathering of ourselves together in a group corporately, even the more so as you see that day approaching, which is a whole nother subject. Right. So, you can do things on your own, and there's nothing wrong with that. But there's something about gathering together as a group. Something about it. Mm-hmm. Jesus had a group of people, and he fed the 5,000. There was one of the most massive miracles there because there was a massive group of people there. Right. So there's power in numbers. The Bible says if one can put 1,000 to flight, two can put 10,000 to flight. And it's kind of, I'm going to use this analogy, right? If it's okay. It's only once a year, but the Arnold Classic is right here in Columbus, Ohio. What an honor, what an amazing thing for Arnold Schwarzenegger to have his event here. Well, once a year I would go. And when I would go, it was a shot in the arm. I was around people that were beautiful, were fit, that were ridiculously good looking. And that could do one or two things. It could either make you feel really bad about yourself or make you go, I'm going to work harder, right?
Right.
So it encouraged me. So it's important to get around people of like faith. Iron sharpens iron. We encourage one another. So to go out and be a lone ranger on your own, there's times that Jesus went away and prayed. But then there were other times that he's with people because God put us together. We need people with skin on.
Right.
You know, as a matter of fact, probably going to offend somebody. You go do this on your own and you just like to make long walks in the forest. Well, the next time you need help, see if that tree can help you out. See where that gets you.
Right.
Just saying.
Yeah, it's going to be hard. That's good. I like that.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was the second one. So the third one is going to be, this is what people said, I don't know of any good churches, and they actually put in quotes, good churches near me. So from my understanding, there's people that I know that really like going into small churches. They don't they like what they like.
Right.
They don't, they say they're huge followers of Christ, but they don't want to get in too big, Right. They don't like that. And that's fine if that's what they're into. And then there's people, they want the mega churches. They want Joel Osteen's or the Stephen Furticks, whatever. They want the lights. They want the production. They think it's cool. I don't know. TD Jakes.
Yeah.
I'm a fan of Stephen Furtick. A lot of people know me watching that.
Right.
You guys might absolutely hate their guts, and that's fine.
That's cool.
So what would you say to people that say there's not really any good churches with me? Because when I read that, the first thing I think about would kind of go back to, it feels like an excuse, but it would feel like wherever you go, there you are. So
pretty much.
You go to a small church and you go, well, I'll tell you what was wrong with that one. I don't like that because blah, 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 right? Then you go to the big one and you go, those lights were, I'll tell you what, like that guy, he was wearing Yeezys up there. That was $1,000. I'm not tithing, I'm not going to that church. So they just end up just going in a circle a bunch, they visit a couple and they go, not for me because, and they almost start doing the judgmental part, which is
right. So now they're judging.
right?
Yeah. That's kind of
the church is too small. The music's not good enough. The pastor didn't preach what I wanted him to preach. I'm not learning anything. So then you just don't go, period. And you end up in a lull where you don't go for over years. It could be years, right?
Yeah.
So what would you say about that? So there's no good churches.
I guess I would have to ask a question when they say there's no good churches. So what does that mean? What's the I would ask them the question, what's the definition of their definition of a good church? What does that mean? Well, if somebody were to ask me the definition of a good church, first of all, any church that God is moving in and is making a difference is going to grow at some level. I'm not saying a church has to have 1,000 people in it. I'm not saying a church can only have 50. What I'm saying is that the church in the book of Acts, it was added to daily, and there were thousands. So the church grew, and I get it. They were meeting in homes. They were meeting in temples. They were meeting on hillsides because God was moving. The key is you have to ask yourself, what is a good church? I believe a good church is this. It's interesting why we think we do church. Most people go to church. We have this so messed up.
More than ever.
Right.
And it's one of those things where it's a check off the box now.
So I have to ask a question. Are we the church or do we go to a church? Because I'm going to say this again, unfiltered. That brick and mortar building could be a strip club as easy as it could be a church. So the building you're going to right now, if it had a different spirit in it, somebody else was running it, it could be a business. Literally, it could be a strip club. What makes it this is when people who love God and are filled with the Spirit of God and know God and want to serve God, they go to this brick and mortar building so that they can meet and make a difference for those that come. And outside of that building, otherwise, it's a place, like you said, you go, I check a box, I went to a church. We are the church, and as long as we keep using the language of we're going to a church, Jesus was very clear. He said, you're the temple. not that place,
Right.
but you are the temple that houses the Holy Spirit. And you are going to say, where two or more
Are
gathered,
Correct. Yeah.
he's there in the
Yeah.
midst.
I love that.
We're having church.
Right.
That's what's happening. So drop that excuse, be the difference maker, be the church, go into a building. And listen, there's all kinds of styles, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I personally am not going to go, no offense, I'm not going to go to a church that uses banjos and does country music. This is not my style, man.
Yeah.
Any more than you might go to a church that has drums and guitars. It's really about style. So find a good church. You got to start looking, and you got to know what you are looking for. It's like saying, I can't find a good car.
Right.
Well, what kind of car are you looking for?
I don't know.
Because I can help you.
Yeah.
You know, I'm looking for an electric car. What do I want? You know, so you have to know what you're looking for. So when you say, I can't find a good church, the question has to go back to you. What is a good church? What does it look like to you? And let me help you find one.
Yeah. That's super good.
So
that's super good. The next one.
Are we at number 4?
We're at number
all
4.
Right,
so we're cranking it out. We're hanging in there. We're at number 4. Maybe we'll just do 5. We'll do the top 5.
All
okay. So the 4th one is I've been hurt by church members. And that's probably a huge one. I'm not super familiar with it because I've not worked in a church. But I know I've heard stories and I know people get hurt because, again, the church is filled with imperfect people. So there's people that maybe have said things to you, or maybe you've gone into a church and you had those looks and people are just looking, maybe you had tattoos or maybe you have whatever, piercings.
You got tattoos.
I have tattoos, right? And I've had people look at me kind of, and they're
I'm sure.
Oh, you go to church. Like, not my, I wouldn't do that. And there's people that think that way. And I think that a lot of people, and obviously these things cut deeper. There's people that have cheated on people. There's people that gotten cussed out. There's people that we've seen, that smoke cigarettes right before they go into church. And, there's just, that's what church is. It's a whole grouping of different people. And when people get hurt that deep, especially when they come to a place where they expect hope, they expect peace, they're looking for answers, they want a hug, they want to feel loved, they want to feel God in this place. That's what church is, right? So for people not to feel that and feeling hurt, I get that. What would you say about people always getting hurt? I think it's one of those things where, again, it goes back to people being imperfect in church. We're humans. Things are going to happen.
You're going to say things. Hope, love, acceptance, forgiveness. Actually, we're going to go back to that previous question. That sounds like a good church if there's a place like that.
Absolutely.
So, and Max said, we're broken people. And if, as our expectation should be, we should feel like we can go into a church and be accepted, whether it's the color of our skin or whether we have tattoos or male or female or whatever the case may be, is that, there's a saying, and I'm sure you've heard it, disappointment is the result of unmet expectations. And when those expectations aren't met, then emotions are attached to that. And those emotions of disappointment generally glean frustration, hurt, anger. So relationships are messy, whether they're at church, at work, at home. Relationships are going to be messy. Matter of fact, I'm reminded of a story that Jesus told his disciples. He told them that they were going to go out and they were going to minister to thousands and millions of people. And I'm sure they were all excited. And he goes, oh, by the way, he stopped.
Yeah.
And he goes, oh, by the way, so Jesus knew they were going to be disappointed. He goes, listen, listen, I know you're excited about this good news thing, right? However, not everyone, no, he was setting them up to help them. I want you to know, not everyone is going to receive this. Well, wait a minute. Why wouldn't they?
Right.
This is great news. He goes, no, listen to me. When that happens, don't get frustrated. Kick the dust off your feet and go to the next place.
Town.
Yeah. So, we've got to learn that people are broken. They're hurt. They're going to hurt us. We need to stop and ask the question, what's going on in their life? Why do they treat me differently because of the color of my skin? Is it really hate? Or is it just they don't get it?
Right.
They've been taught something, or maybe they've been in a place. I mean, I've had people as a pastor, even today, you might lash out, say some things on this podcast. You know what? It's okay. You have, number one, you have every right to do that. But if somebody were to personally come up and say something, my first thoughts are, dude, are you okay? What's going on in your life that you're this angry and frustrated? And when you look deeper, there's something else going on.
Right.
So if we take it personal, it's going to be personal.
Mm-hmm. And I like what you said, where you kick off the dust, go to the next town. That place obviously wasn't for you. And
I mean, one size doesn't fit all churches, man.
Yeah,
it just
if there's one place that's super popular and maybe you see it online and you go, I didn't like that, it's okay.
Yeah.
You don't have to like it.
Yeah.
So let's wrap this up. Let's
wrap it up. Number 5.
This is number 5. This is the last one. And I think a lot of people, I've heard these before. Absolutely. COVID-19 got us to stop going and now have not gotten back into it really. And the people that I know that do that, I mean, it was a lot of people, right? I mean, you couldn't go. A lot of churches shut down, right? And some didn't. And that could maybe be a whole podcast. That was, people are like, the church shouldn't be shut down. Other people saying, yeah, it should be.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my goodness. That was just a whole ordeal, right?
Battle.
And what happened was I think a lot of people were like, oh, I can watch online. And online, which is an awesome thing. I still watch online every now and then. I'm not perfect. I'll watch it when I'm tired. I didn't sleep good. And I'm going, you know what? I'm going to watch online. Now, there's people that do it every single Sunday. And they go, why? I went to church and I didn't go to church. I watched it online. I'm a follower.
Right.
And you and there's nothing wrong with that, but you can get in a rut so fast.
Yeah.
When you stay home. That's a dangerous thing. When you seclude yourself, it goes back to being, spiritual, whatever. You're alone, walking alone in the forest. You're by yourself. And I just don't think God wants you to do that. He wants you to have community. And COVID-19 did a really good job at shutting friendships down, community down, churches down. And then you get in a rut. And here we are. Has 3 years, 4 years? I don't know, 3 or 4 years.
Yeah. Both of us were extremely sick. It was real.
We died. We died. And we came back. We came back.
Yeah.
So what would you say to people like that, where they go, well, after COVID-19, we don't go to church anymore, and you're thinking,
right?
Holy moly, that was 3 or 4 years ago, and it's just easy to get in that rut, and you go, but I watched online, so I'm good.
I want to encourage people those that have done that. I want you to ask yourself. It's always a question. Ask yourself this question: why did I go to begin with? We're going to go back to what Jesus said about the first commandment. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment. And if you do that, you're going to want to be around other believers. So why did you go in the first place? And I want to close it out with this. Listen, so many times when it comes to church, and that's what we're talking about, people are not going anymore. And I get that. And as a pastor, here's what I get. Let me say it this way first. Do you think, let me ask you this question, right? Can you go to your bank and withdraw more than you've deposited? Can you? No. If I've got $1,000 in the bank, I can't go try to withdraw 2,000. People expect the church for them, and I'm not talking about money. I'm talking about your energy, your time, your heart, your soul to God, right?
Right.
So we want to not go to church or stop going to church. And then when something epic happens, where's God? Where's the church? Where's this? And here's what I'm going to say. Again, probably going to tick some people off. You've made no deposit. How can you make a withdrawal? Oh, well, God's always there. I know he is. But I want you to know that you've got to invest time with God to understand who he is, what's going on in your life, and to have a discernment of good things are happening, is it God? Bad things are happening, is it God? I don't know. So, but if you don't make an investment into God, it's going to be really hard to try to make a withdrawal. And it doesn't even make sense. It makes sense when it's explained that way.
Yeah, yeah. Or when everything's going really well.
Right. Oh yeah.
Right. When we had COVID, I was on the end and I was like, this is it. This is how I go. and why would God do this? It's easy to get in those ruts and think those things. So it was nice to, he was, on his deathbed.
I was
he
dying.
He was still, he was just a very good example.
I still made the same plea.
But he still made the same plea.
I still made.
We're very human.
I'm like, God, if you get me out of this, I will set it with you every day. And just worship you. And that's not happening.
But it's about getting that, just so you said, depositing something into that.
Right. Seek ye first.
Seek
the kingdom of God, and all these things
shall be added unto you.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow. So someone fixed this.
That's right. Someone fixed this. First episode. We got through the first 5. We had one more, but we wanted to keep it under 20 minutes. It looks,
right. Sorry,
it's about 30 minutes or so. We're really excited to continue this. We have some ideas for the next couple episodes, but I would love to hear from you guys.
Please.
Some ideas of some questions maybe that you guys have that you've heard that you think are very popular and getting a lot of attention. You're going, I'm not sure. We would love to discuss those with you guys. So please follow us. Click the link. This will be uploaded on Spotify, Apple Music, and YouTube. And I appreciate everyone stopping by. Everyone have a good day. Bye. I was on the end and I was like, this is it. This is how I go. And why would God do this? It's easy to get in those ruts and think those things. So it was nice to, he was, on his deathbed.
I was dying.
He was still, he was just a very good example.
I still made the same plea.
But he still made the same plea.
I still made.
We're very human.
I'm like, God, if you get me out of this, I will set it with you every day. And just worship you. And that's not happening.
But it's about getting that, just so you said, depositing something into that.
Right. Seek ye first.
Seek
the kingdom of God, and all these things
shall be added unto you.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow. So someone fixed this.
That's right. Someone fixed this. First episode. We got through the first 5. We had one more, but we wanted to keep it under 20 minutes. It looks,
Sorry,
it's about 30 minutes or so. We're really excited to continue this. We have some ideas for the next couple episodes, but I would love to hear from you guys.
Please.
Some ideas of some questions maybe that you guys have that you've heard that you think are very popular and getting a lot of attention. You're going, I'm not sure. We would love to discuss those with you guys. So please follow us. Click the link. This will be uploaded on Spotify, Apple Music, and YouTube. And I appreciate everyone stopping by. Everyone have a good day.